frankly, I totally discount those type of shows. These psychic ghost hunters, they make it spooky for the ratings. They make it scary because nobody would watch. It's really very calm and tame.
Oh, all right, so let me ask you this.
It's nothing like that.
Is it more like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost than it is the woo-woo factor on A&E and those other shows that are out there?
Yeah, more so. I mean, even that was a little bit exaggerated for the movie, but it's much more like that than it would be any of those other ghost hunting shows that you see. Absolutely. There are ghost hunters. I'm not one of them, but I'm sure if you went somewhere with a ghost hunter, you wouldn't see all the spooky things that they do for the television shows. It's probably a lot quieter. It's a lot duller. It's probably more like sitting out on a stakeout waiting and waiting for hours and hours more than all the things they pack into these half-hour shows, which is probably over many days of taping.
Sure. Tell me, Angela, how do the spirits know that you can hear and see them?
From what I understand, and from all the other mediums I now have, there's a community and you get to know people, and there's a lot of available information. It seems as if when you're reading for a person, that person has a connection to the spirit, and because you're with this person that we call the sitter, the person that you're reading for, they communicate with you. Their energy enters your energy. So because you're a medium, you have a certain energy. They are aware of this energy from the frequency that their consciousness now operates in without a body. And the fact that you're reading for someone who they know has drawn them to this sitting. So they're able to make the connection to you. I mean, there are times when people are reading in front of large audiences, and there's a whole host of people in the audience. Everyone has someone connected to them that's passed away, and these people in the audience will draw all these spirits there because of their desire to make a connection.
So all these spirits are actually there, and do these spirits ever interact with each other on a spiritual plane? I am told they do. I have obviously never visited this plane, but anytime I've read for anyone, it's usually been only one spirit at a time. But sometimes there are more than one or two waiting to come through. And I honestly, Rob, I don't know that they do or don't, but I believe that they communicate with one another. For example, when you're at a large gathering of people who want to have you read or try to communicate with those who they've lost on the other side, and you were just telling us that all these energies mix between the sitters and yourself and the other mediums. So not only do you have the spirit or the spirit from one person there, but you have maybe 15, 20 different spirits there, or do they come in individually?
No, if it were a large group, they would all be there at the same time. But are you saying, do they come through to the consciousness of the medium all at the same time?
Well, yes, because or does it depend if the person is sitting?
Yes, there you have to develop, and you have to become very clear, and you have to learn to link to one person at a time. Okay. That's where it can be difficult, and that's where obviously experience comes in, because it can be confusing. You might hear a voice and then another voice, and of course not knowing that it's two different people, because when you hear their voices in your head, you may or may not hear it in their exact voice. Sometimes it sounds like your own inner voice, except that it is a thought that is downloaded whole and complete into your mind that you were not thinking. And sometimes it's in their own voice.
Well, what's the difference?
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you what the difference between a physical medium is and a mental medium.
A mental medium like myself is someone that receives the information telepathically and through the other senses. I hear clairaudiently, I feel their feelings clairsentiently, and I receive symbols and pictures in my mind clairvoyantly. And that is something that isn't validated outside of myself as it would be by physical mediumship, where the actual physical mediumship has objective type of things happening, such as movement of objects in the room or appearance of objects in the room that were not there before, that are teleported or apported by the spirits. In physical mediumship, you have physical signs. In mental mediumship, you get proof from the spirit for the person you're reading for that proves that it's the person. They'll tell you things that only they would know, memories that were shared, specific things that happened that you wouldn't have any knowledge of, but only the person you're reading for could validate. And this very, very specific information will prove that you have a spirit. In a physical mediumship setting, which I have attended and have been utterly amazed by, you'll see things moving around the room. Tables going up to the ceiling and spinning, which would be impossible for anybody to do. Pianos being played.
Wow.
Footfalls shaking the whole room. You feel someone touching you. It's things that I never, ever would have believed I've actually been a witness to.
When you're when you're doing this, are you in any physical harm?
I never felt that at all. I did not feel afraid at all. I was visiting a circle that has been very, very successful with apports. And apports are things that materialize in the room that were not there before. And I was visiting this circle as a guest, and I didn't feel afraid at all. I thought I would, and I didn't. I think because I was so amazed at what was happening, I didn't have a moment to be afraid. And it wasn't anything to be afraid of. The spirits were using the energy of the physical medium and his group of circle members to manifest things on the physical plane to show that there is a consciousness after loss of the physical body. And they don't, it's not a sideshow. It's not something done just to people, but it's only for people to wake up and realize that our consciousness continues to exist after we leave our body, and to tell us that we should live on this earth for the experience, deal with the stresses, grow in character, and love as much as possible. Because when we leave this plane, all we take is the love we felt and the memories of our lives. So it's for that reason that you become a medium. Not to amaze anyone, but to share that message.
How can a listener tell the difference between a legitimate medium and a medium who's out there to get the fast buck?
I think you have to listen to your gut instinct. I mean, don't you know when you're being lied to a lot of times? You
Definitely.
Feel something is off. You just don't feel right.
But
it's the same way in anything.
In the case of a person going to a medium, they want to hear. They want to believe. They are willing to sacrifice that gut feeling for the possibility of that communication. So in that case, I don't think that the rational mind is actually playing all that fair.
Yeah, their radar may not be working as well. In that case, they desire it too intensely. I would say if you went to a real mental medium, they wouldn't ask you any leading questions. The whole idea of mediumship is to not ask questions of the person that you're reading for, is to just present anything that is coming through to you, and you ask them to validate it afterwards. In other words, you wouldn't say, "Oh, did your father pass away?"
I see.
You would say, "I have a gentleman here. He appears to be around this age. He is saying he passed away from this condition."
Angela, stand by, my dear. You and I have to take our final break. Angela, Artemis is our special guest. www.mysticmusingsandmeditations.com. We'll be back on the other side of this final break for this hour as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the two top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk.
I am not a free man, chained. I am not a wise man, but neither am I rearranged. I am not a new man, but neither am I old. I am not a rich man, but I cannot be sold. I am one. You are another.
Welcome back, everyone. Angela Artemis is our special guest this hour. Her website is www.mysticmusingsandmeditations.com. That's www.mysticmusingsandmeditations.com. First of all, Angela, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure having you here with us. I wish you continued success. We haven't even gotten to the point where I would like to talk to you about your new book entitled The Spirit Link. What happens to a person when they die?
If they hopefully are aware of the afterlife, they have a very smooth transition, and they awaken, or they leave their bodies in an awake and aware condition, knowing that they are transitioning. Their consciousness is now going to be operating in another frequency. If they are not aware, many times they don't accept that they've passed away, and they live in a world of their own making where they're not aware that their actual physical life on Earth has ended. But for the most part, I would say that most people who pass away do become aware that they have died. They wake up, or they go through this transition where they are expelled from the body, and someone is waiting there for them that they knew and loved, and shows them the way into the next frequency where they will exist without their body, and makes their transition easy, comfortable, and so they don't get stuck. I mean, and again, what we were saying earlier about watching these television shows and movies, most people don't get stuck. You're not going to find thousands and thousands of people roaming around wherever you are in the earth plane stuck, although some do. But in most cases, they'll go. They'll see a relative, they'll see someone they love, and they'll easily go into that next level.
We've got about 60 seconds. What can listeners do to develop their very own mediumship?
The best thing you can do is to meditate. Meditate every day find a technique where you can empty your mind of the constant thoughts that are swirling around, become very